Hi everyone, it's Heidi from flutterbyheidi.co.uk. I'm Heidi Smith, I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator based in the United Kingdom, and today I'm working with the lovely Dandy Garden suite. And I'm just using one of the stamp sets, Dragonfly Garden, and some of the paper. If you want to see the whole suite, if you have a look on my YouTube, you'll find the suite there. This is the DSP that comes in it, which is 6x6, 48 sheets, four sheets of each of the double-sided designs, and there's 12 of those. And you can see lovely stuff, quite rich colours, sort of regals, some little bumblebee images, and these coordinate with the two stamp sets that you've got in the suite. And on the one piece of paper, the dragonflies actually punch out with the dragonflies punch. That's on this one here. But obviously the great thing is that you can create your own dragonflies using the stamp set here. So this is a double fan fold, which I've based on a design that I found on carolscreativecorner.com. And I just thought it was perfect for sort of anything with a flying element to add those little butterflies in, I keep doing that, dragonflies in, and hopefully you can see a bit of wink of Stella on the wings there to add that lovely shimmery sheen. So this one I've used some lovely Misty Moonlight. You can see on the back there's your panel to obviously write your sentiment on, but the great thing is that it obviously stands up, as you can see there. That's what it is from the top, but you get a nice sort of element, and it's not too wide either. Just to show you, so this is a template for me to check that my C6 anything fits in a C6 envelope, and you see there that there's plenty of space, but I will use that later for just helping place those dragonflies to make sure that it will still fit in that standard card, standard envelope size. So let's get started. So I've already done a little bit of the cutting just for ease for the stamping. So for the front panel, you've got a piece of smoky slate that is 5.5 by 13.5, 2.25 by 5.25. You want two of those, and two pieces of basic white, which are 5 by 13, 2 by 5 inches. And on the first one, we're going to use our Memento ink and the lovely big image. So I've got that on one of our eye blocks. Just make sure you've got good coverage. Easier to add the ink pad to the stamp, and then you want to sort of, I'm just going to pop that. I've sort of lined this up just off to the side. Out. In fact, no, actually what I'm going to do, I'm going to do my blending first. Right, the reason I'm doing the blending first, using our blending brushes, and that's because what you don't want to do is, if your ink is slightly wet, it will still smudge. So if you do the blending first, then add it. One, you're not going to get a cloudy image, and two, you're still going to have a lovely crisp black on the top as well, so you won't get any sort of muddying of it. So I've got Old Olive and Misty Moonlight here. I've got a scrap of paper here, so I'm just adding a bit of ink, and I'm sort of sponging off, and then I'm just going to come in, and this is kind of to create almost like sort of grass effect at the bottom end. Sort of, I don't want a hard line. There we go. Just sort of, that's probably enough to get our colour. And then Misty Moonlight, I mean, it is still quite dark, so I've sort of inked off quite a bit, and I'm just coming very gently over that, coming down the edges, so you get a slightly deeper finish. That's what I didn't want to do. So just keep the card, it's slightly more difficult with a sort of smaller piece. There we go. And just blend it. If you want it deeper, obviously just press a little bit more firmly, or just keep going over. So I quite like, I've got a bit of texture in that as well, because obviously it isn't sort of flat. You could do other things. You always add a punched element if you wanted to have a sort of moonlight element to it. Right, now I'm going to come in with my ink. Just ink it back up. And I'm going to stamp that Just move my fingers just to make sure I get a nice impression in the middle there. So there we have our centre panel. And then on the second one, I'm just going to add a little bit of ink, stamping just to the bottom for the back panel. There we go. So I'm going to mount those now onto our layers of smoky slate. My seal plus, let's grab my seal. So I'm just using my seal here to add my glue. Just centre that onto that panel. So put that to one side. And with the seal, you just literally, what I do is I just sort of almost sort of twist it, lift it at the very end, just to one side. Okay. Now we've done our, the next thing we want to do is to do our actual card base. So I thought rather than the misty moonlight, we'd perhaps go for a slightly brighter colour. So you want a piece of card that is 14 by 18 centimetres. So I'll cut that to 14 by 18. Now, once you've cut that at 14 by 18, you then want to score on the long edge. That's 5.5 by 7.5. Okay, just line that up at, you want that at 3, at 6, at 12 and at 15, which is 1.5, 2.5, 5, 6 1/4. And then what you want to do is actually score diagonally on these outer two. So you can see here, this is my sort of template, just scoring diagonally across those. So really straightforward to do. Just be careful to line those up, then hold it nice and firm, and turn and repeat. Like so. So you've got 2 score lines on each side and a centre panel. So now we can add our layers while it's still flat. So helps if you pick up the right glue. So I'm just keeping my fingers in the centre, or trying to keep them in the centre there as well. Like so. And that one's going to go, just make sure it's the right way up on the reverse. Now you want to fold and reinforce those score lines. I'm just doing that with my fingers for the moment. And what you want to do is this centre vertical one, you want to kind of do a mountain fold, and then you want the others to go in the opposite direction. So you see here, what you're going to do now is, probably show you easier on this one. So you want to make sure that you've got mountain. These ones then go into a valley, and again, I always fold with the score lines first, and then all you're doing is folding those in to create your little fan on the side. See that? So the same on the other side. So this one's coming in and our fans are coming out. So these ones up like so, and that's what folds behind. Now obviously you could leave those as they were, but obviously we really want to add our decoration to those. So let's do some stamping and punching. So grab yourself some of your basic white, some scraps of card that you've got, and what we're going to do is stamp our dragonflies in Memento Black. So you want 3 of these. Now if you want to minimise waste on this, then you can cut a piece of card that fits just a strip to put those in, and this one's about 4.5 by 6 centimetres. Just for speed. Actually, while it's before I actually can't get my words out today. So before I actually punch those, I'm just going to use our wing image, and I'm going to stamp off with that first. Like so. So there we've got our wings kind of very quickly coloured in. I'm going to put my ink away because, as you can tell, I frequently get my fingers in my ink. And you just line that up from underneath, like so, and punch out. As I say, if you wanted to sort of, if you didn't want the little dragonflies, then easy to just cut the strip of paper to go with those. And our third one. So, and if you wanted to colour those again, you could just daub over those if you wanted to. If I just show you, so on this one, for example, you could just stamp over a couple of times to get this sort of a mottled effect if you wanted to. Up to you entirely, and then you could add those onto your project. But once those are being stamped, I'm just coming in with my Wink of Stella. Oh, don't want that one, that's my old gold. This one I think has still got a bit in it. Yes, it has. And then I'm just going to sort of colour over those wings with our Wink of Stella. And that will move some of that ink as well to kind of give a more variation. But as I say, having used that stamp, it's actually a little bit more. On the original one, I did a bit of colouring with my blender pen, keeping it lighter. I thought we'd have a slightly darker one against the yellow this time. And then while those are drying, we can cut our DSP pieces. So with the DSP, I'm going to cut a piece that's 13 by 5.5 to start off with. I'm just going to cut that in half diagonally. And then keeping those two pieces together, just like so, she says. Those are my two pieces for my sides. I'm just going to cut a little sliver off those and then cut in half. And I'll show you another way to kind of do those as well in a moment. So I'm just trimming a little bit off those Obviously all of the measurements will be on in inches and centimetres on my blog as well. Then another piece I want 2.5 by 6. So I'm just going to cut that at 6 by 2.5. I'm going to cut those in half diagonally. So again, depends on your directional paper. Basically, if you haven't got directional paper, if you've got a directional paper, you'll just want to vary them. So we're cutting those into halves. So this piece, you can see I've done top right to bottom left. So this one wants to be top left to bottom right. So, okay. Then all we need to do is add these on to our card. So I'm going to add these outer pieces to that outer section there, using some adhesive, which of course has, how could I lose some adhesive? Okay. Just pop that in like so. Same on the opposite side, and then as I say, you can add your layers into the middle. I've obviously knocked my glue onto the floor. I'll locate it in a moment. But with these pieces you can see that actually they're just going to fit into this little piece here, into each of the sections. So they go in diagonally opposite. And I say you can either use the offcuts, or as well as the offcuts of those, you can use the pieces from your from creating the side panels. So all that remains to do is just add those on. I always find it easier to sort of lay them out first. And again, add those in. So yes, I should have said what I do, when you trim your offcuts from the side pieces, you're just trimming it down to 6 centimetres in length before you cut the diagonal, cut straight down the middle to the point rather, and that just helps minimise the waste. So by using, say it's about, all you're doing is taking 0.5 centimetre off, just to create the length of the triangle. And I'd always like a card that folds flat. I'm probably going to run out of time, but anyway, all you then do is you add, see, your panels here. And what I should have said is that you then just measure in and add your dragonflies. So let's add those on just to show you. So your main one is fine, because that's just going to go onto your main panel, and it's these side ones that I use the template for. So add that in, and what I did was I just put a bit of adhesive onto the outer tip of those wings, and I kind of squashed the card down and kind of went, right, okay, that's going to go in just there, and then do exactly the same on the bottom corner, which of course is the one that's typical, isn't it? The one I haven't actually put my paper on yet. But exactly the same way, and that way you know it's going to fit into that envelope once you have finished.